Tenders, and aren't they great? So we're going to be hearing from them throughout the show, which is a real treat. But right now we have another special treat. We have Access with us, who is the yellow lab over here, and with and he went ahead. He or she? She brought 3 guests with her, and we have right next to me Lauren Bachner, and then next to her Fritz Smith, and then next to her Sally Knapp, and we're going to be talking about service dogs. And this is just an amazing way to use dogs, really. And tell me how long they've been used this way.
Oh, we've had them for...
Our program has been since 2006.
2006.
But service dogs have been around for about 40 years.
Really? And they use them, I know I've had the seeing eye dogs in the past, but these are different.
Yes.
Because these are dogs that will help someone who has some disability.
Right.
It could be, and we talked earlier about seizures, someone having a seizure.
Yes.
Someone hearing impaired.
Right.
So there could be other impairments, just physical impairment.
Right.
How are these dogs trained?
Well, we start them out right as soon as they're born, as soon as their eyes open and they're walking, they're taught to pick up small objects and move around items, and they're around wheelchairs right from the beginning.
So they're not alarmed by that.
Right? No,
they're
wheeled
life.
around when before they're born or before they're walking in a wheelchair. So they're exposed to everything very early. But we use a lot of agility to teach them movement of their back quarters to be around a wheelchair and be around tight spots. And
when you're moving, do they sit or do they walk on the right or left side? I mean, is there
they
a special
can do
way?
both.
Okay.
Heel is on the left and place is on the right.
Okay.
And depending on the needs of the person, they are trained on both sides.
And I have to ask you this very intimate question. Where do they sleep?
Wherever they want.
I'm afraid I'd have it right next to me. I wouldn't want that dog anywhere else.
Actually, they're crate trained, so they're in crates. And when they're initially placed with a person, they're restricted to the bedroom at night so that they're by the
available.
person and available.
Right.
Sometimes my own personal service dogs sleep with me because they put pressure on certain points of my body that I have spasms and relieve the spasms. They also sleep next to my legs so that they help with circulation and warm my legs at night.
I love to sleep with a dog. I mean, I'm one of these dog people, so that's...
So it's a personal preference.
Right.
We don't, as puppy raisers, we don't allow them to sleep on or get on furniture because we don't want them to get into that
habit that the next owner might not.
The person they're placed
their
with
next companion,
can't have that. But once they're placed with the person, I know we have a young boy that has a dog, and his mom was dead set against the dog being on the bed, but the dog sleeps with him now.
Yeah, I was going to say. And Sally, do you have a service dog as well?
I do too, yes.
And what kind of, is it a lab also?
It's also a yellow lab, just almost looks like Access.
Right. And
a little bit bigger, but...
And what does your dog do? I mean, we've got some photographs that we'll show a little bit.
Well, one of the things I would mention along with where they sleep, I have a wall switch for my overhead light in my bedroom. And my present service dog hasn't learned to do it yet. But the one I had before, I had one for 12 years before that. I could get in bed and then he would turn the light out for me, or on. And that's really nice not to have to
Does he do the remote? That's what I want to know.
Not yet.
Well, let's take a look at some of the photographs that you've brought. And perhaps you can see the monitor. You can talk about them a little bit. Oh, my goodness. They get out of the dryer,
Takes it out of the dryer, yes. Yep.
Does he load it? That's what I want to know.
I'm trying to get her to fold it. This is where we teach them how to place their back feet.
Oh, okay.
So we get them to stand and circle around that so their front feet are stationary and they're moving their back feet independent of their front feet.
Really?
So that
okay.
Then when they're turning with the wheelchair.
Oh, that they can turn that way, yeah.
Yeah, because they don't know they have back feet.
No. These are beautiful dogs. And where are the dogs obtained? I mean, are they special breeders or?
We breed them ourselves.
You breed them ourselves?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
And we get mail.
Yeah.
We get mail, we get keys.
They're wonderful. They're absolutely, and you know, we didn't mention the name of your organization. It's the Empire Servicedog Program, is that
Yes.
correct? And you've been around, you said how long, how many years?
Since 2006.
Okay, now if someone's watching right now and they thought, I would love to raise a puppy, should they contact you?
Oh, yes, yes. We're always looking for puppy raisers.
And how
we don't
long
have-
do they keep them?
Our program is unique in that we do not have a kennel. The dogs stay with their puppy raiser until they're actually
Okay.
placed in their, with their permanent companion. So it can be 2 to 3 years.
That they could
have
keep
them.
that dog, oh, wow.
And they go to weekly training classes, and
Right.
we train at 4 Paws Inn down in Glenmont. And in the community, we go to the local malls and parks and.
So that people are aware of
Right.
that. Do people with disabilities train them also?
Yes.
I was going to say, because
Yeah.
you could be a puppy raiser, right?
Right.
Yeah, not a problem there. We mentioned as far as but you know, safety in the yards. You pretty much keep these dogs on leashes. Is that
They're on
correct?
leash, yeah. Unless you have a fenced-in backyard.
Okay.
But they're never allowed to run off leash.
Right, because you really want. I mean, these are well-trained dogs.
They're very well trained and they're
valuable.
right.
Very
Yes.
valuable.
It costs pretty much between $10,000 and $15,000 for an all-volunteer program to raise a dog.
Because you got to feed them.
Because we
and-
have
yeah.
their vet bills and their training expenses and our breeding costs. So you don't want them running out in the street and getting hit by a car or
Well, you don't want
somebody taking
yeah,
them. And
no, right. I mean, to me, you know, if you've got an animal, we'll back right up here. If you've got an animal, protect it. And if you've got a cat, keep it inside. There's
Right.
just so many things that you really need to think about when you obtain an animal. And we have the Animal Protective Foundation on once a month, and we talk about those issues. But here's a very specialized issue. If you'd like to raise one of these puppies that will be used as service dogs, which is different than the blind, because they
Yes.
have special, it's a special
It's
program.
a totally different,
different.
training
Right.
process
And
for
guide dogs are different.
For guide
yeah.
dogs, yes.
So you can be one of these puppy raisers, and that will get these dogs trained to become really useful citizens. You know,
Yes.
in our home. It's just so nice to know that it's just one more tool
Yes.
that people that might be in a wheelchair have to live just a normal life.
Right.
Yeah. And I love the dryer stuff. That's really great. Turning off lights, that's wonderful. And finding the remote would even be better.
Oh, and they can do that too. They can be trained to do
They
that.
can
Oh, yeah.
find things that you named objects. My dog gets my shoes for me in the morning.
Oh, you can say shoe and they know?
Well, I say, go get my shoes, and he brings one, gives it a good shake to be sure it's dead, and then goes to get the other one.
To make sure it's
One at a
dead.
time.
Or maybe he's making sure there's no spiders inside or
Oh,
something.
maybe.
Yeah.
We'll give them a little thought process there. I do want to thank all these representatives of the Empire Servicedog Program, and if you'd like to get involved, they certainly could use your help. And in a way, we're trying to raise the awareness of service dogs, and one of the things you'll notice if you look at Access here, there's a sign that says right on his back, under his little vest, that says, "Do not pet." So we'd like to just warn people that when they find a dog, a service dog, that is working, because they're working all the time, right?
Yes.
You don't want to distract them. Is that correct, Lauren?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And
they're
our
working.
dogs wear packs, but it's not required by law to wear a pack. So sometimes dogs that
Don't have
they may not have them on. So you should always ask before you pet a dog.
Well,
to
I
begin
know
with,
I always
to
do.
Yeah.
whether you can pet it or not, and respect the person's wishes.
Exactly, because if that dog's, may I pet the dog?
You may.
That dog is certainly working, and we certainly want them to not be distracted.
Right.
And I think that's the important thing. And whether it's a guide dog or a service dog, it's always best to ask. And I usually approach a dog from the front so that they're not startled,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and they can see your hand, you know.
Right.
So, Thank you all for being here, Sally.
Thank you for having
Glad
us.
you
Could
made
we
it.
mention that we're
Sure.
having a benefit on
Absolutely.
April
Oh,
7th?
I put that in my newsletter,
Yes,
but I
and
didn't mention it. Go right ahead and mention it.
They will be demonstrating all the things they do at that benefit, which is going to be April 7th
April 7th, which
at
is
the Italian American Community Center on Washington Avenue Extension in
what a
Albany.
great place that is too.
Yes.
Like easy parking and nice to
Yes.
get in there.
And it is a benefit, so there's a $25
Okay, I think that-
donation. But anybody who's interested, would you want to mention the website or?
Well, we have your
It's
website
on
up there.
the-
It's
Oh,
up
you
right
do?
now. We're
Okay.
getting it up there.
Okay.
It's April 7th from 5 to 8 at the Italian Community Center, which is located at 257 Washington Avenue Extension. You all know where that is, I'm sure. Polish Community Center is on that same stretch. But and they will be showing the service dogs and also talk about their upcoming events that are coming up, where you can see the dogs and maybe where they're appearing at the mall or wherever you're going.
And we'll have a silent auction as well.
Great, great.
And we'll have Dr. Kristen Gunderson from Shaker will be discussing alternative medicine for dogs like acupuncture
Oh, yeah.
and massage therapy, and that she's our speaker. So there
And
might
she's
be
very
people
good.
who-
I know that. I've heard about her, and she has
Yeah.
quite a reputation as far
I
as
think she's worth coming for
just
as
to
well
hear
as
that.
the dogs.
So if you like dogs, join in and make a contribution. You're supporting a wonderful cause, and you're going to have a good time besides. I'm sure they'll have food too, dog biscuits. I mean.
We start them out right as soon as they're born. As soon as their eyes open and they're walking, they're taught to pick up small objects and move around items, and they're around wheelchairs right from the beginning.
So they're not alarmed by that.
Right?
at all. Yeah,
No,
it's
they're
just a part
they're
of their
wheeled
life.
around before they're born or before.
Vendors, and aren't they great? So we're going to be hearing from them throughout the show, which is a real treat. But right now we have another special treat. We have Access with us, who is the yellow lab over here, and and he went ahead. He or she? She brought 3 guests with her, and we have right next to me Lauren Bachner, and then next to her Fritz Smith, and then next to her Sally Knapp, and we're going to be talking about service dogs. And this is just an amazing way to use dogs, really. And tell me how long they've been used this way.
Oh, we've had them for.
Our program has been since 2006.
2006.
But service dogs have been around. They're walking in a wheelchair, so they're exposed to everything very early. But we use a lot of agility to teach them movement of their back quarters to be around a wheelchair and be around tight spots.
And when you're moving, do they sit or do they walk on the right or left side? I mean, is there
They
a
can
special
do
way?
both.
Okay.
Heel is for about 40 years.
Really? And they use them, I know I've had the seeing eye dogs in the past, but these
Right.
are different.
Yes.
Because these are dogs that will help someone who has some disability.
Right.
It could be, and we talked earlier about seizures, someone having a seizure.
Yes.
Someone hearing impaired.
Right.
So there could be other impairments, just physical impairment.
Right.
How are these dogs trained?
Well,